Hello, I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Library. You'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me as usual, Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Frank, and
Just let me
yourself?
adjust my camera here. I accidentally hit it while we were going to air. There we go.
Just
Here,
realized I have to
I want to
readjust
look
my
sober.
background here.
There, I look sober now. I was looking a little drunk there for a second. Had a little too much. I don't know what.
Firmly upright.
So talk to me.
It's been an interesting day, for sure. A lot of interesting stuff to come across the wire, which I'm sure we'll get to a little further down the road. But
How about you? What's going on with you?
they got changes going on. These things sort of happen around the office,
Yeah,
so we'll
yeah,
see
yeah.
what
You
happens.
think?
Yeah,
Well, as long as it all is manageable, right? Because they don't pay you because you love what you do. Well, you can love what you do, but it is defined as a job, a
that's true.
job.
They need us to fulfill a purpose. So
Right. So, their interest is in making sure their bottom line is effectuated in a profitable manner, and it's your job to make sure that keeps happening.
exactly. So
And
as long as
so
that keeps happening, we're golden.
that's right. That's right. You can continue buying Christmas presents, anniversary presents, birthday presents,
All that
and
sort
pay
of
your
fun stuff.
and pay your bills so that you have a roof over your head and the kitchen table's full of stuff that you enjoy eating. All right, let's go to the Canadian Football League, and we'll talk about the Stampeders, and they signed national defensive lineman Anthony Federico.
Yeah, he was a second round draft pick by Hamilton back in 2022. Spent the 2022 and 23 seasons with the Tiger Cats. He signed with Montreal on July 9th this summer and played a pair of games for the Owls. And university, he suited up for 23 games over 3 seasons at Queens and had 87 career tackles for the Golden Gales, including 34 and a half tackles for loss and 20 and a half sacks. Um, he's he's played around the league a little bit, obviously, Montreal and Hamilton. It's good to see him bring his experience to the Stampeders. I know that they've been looking to shore up a few things. Getting stuff handled on the defensive end seems like a good place to start.
Absolutely, the Red Blacks, Darius Pickett out for the season. Former Argonaut that many people attribute for the Argos' lack of defensive prowess, and if that's what happened to the Argos, what happens to the Red Blacks? This could be a tough injury to overcome.
Very. Bob Dice confirmed on Tuesday afternoon that Pickett had suffered a ending Achilles injury.
Oh,
He,
geez.
yeah, it's one of those things that just does not sound good. He joined the team in free agent this year and had been a key component of their defense. The 4-year vet had 52 tackles and an interception and a sack for the Red Blacks through the first 13 games. He left their Week 15 loss to the Ticats with this injury. Now, he did share a message. Words can't describe how I truly feel. The thing that hurts me the most is not the injury, but the fact that I can't be on the field to fight with my teammates. He's sorry that he can't finish what we started this year. He's thankful to the Red Blacks for giving him a chance to come over. They are on the verge of actually securing their first playoff berth since the 2018 season. So losing Pickett like this is a huge loss. We'll have to see if they can adapt. They are going to be facing Montreal on Saturday, where a win would qualify them for the playoffs. They're also missing starting middle linebacker Jovan Santos Knox, who's on the 6-game IL. Weak side linebacker Frankie Griffin is also likely to miss the game, a game or two, sorry, with injuries as well. This unfortunately really doesn't bode well for them. They are in second place at 8-4 behind Montreal, who's already clinched a playoff berth at 10-2-1. Toronto's bringing up the rear ahead of Hamilton at least. Toronto's 7-6-0, and Hamilton is 4-9-0 in the East.
Well, it ain't quite a stake to the heart, but you could say it's a picket to the heart of the Ottawa Red Blacks and their playoff chances.
It's not going to get any easier for sure.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
You see that? So you could say also that the absence of Pickett is a hole in their defense. A hole in their defense.
Fans, indeed.
Um, yeah. I think there's a bunch of people standing outside my house now carrying signs picketing against my humor.
If I didn't have
It
to be on the
goes
show right now, there,
on and
Frank, I would be down there too.
it goes on and on and on. Okay, Ticats sign American receiver O.J. Hilaire.
Now, Hilaire spent training camp with the NFL Falcons after signing with the club as an undrafted free agent. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds from Belgrade, Florida. He's played 26 games over 2 seasons at Bowling Green State, registering 103 receptions for 1,279 yards and 10 touchdowns. He started at Alabama A&M, where he suited up over 14 games. This is one of those additions. Hopefully, they're looking to add a little bit more offensive spark to what they've got going on here. For certain, he does look like he has relatively sure hands. 103 receptions for 1,279 yards is nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely. The Riders signed quarterback Michael Hires. Sorry, Bombers at yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Riders signed Michael Hires, 6'1", 215. He joined the Roughies after attending a rookie minicamp with the Bucks this year. He spent 2 seasons at Stanford University, where he played 24 games as a Bulldog. He passed for a conference-leading 3,544 yards and 36 touchdowns in the 2022-2023 season. So that's a big add for the Riders. Hopefully, he'll be able to complement their air game, so they don't have to rely on the ground game and AJ Wallet as much to get things done.
Absolutely. The Bombers add 4 American players, including quarterback Darren Don't Call Me John Granger.
Yep. So they've added Darren. They've also added Brandon Wright, defensive back Russell Dandy, and receiver Penny Hart. Granger is the big addition here. 6'4", 225 pounds. He's returning to the Bombers after a late release, actually, from this year's training camp. He spent a 5-year collegiate career with Furman and Georgia State. The other additions that we're looking at is Wright, 6'2", 250 from Michigan State. Hart, 5'8", 180 from Georgia State. And Dandy, 6 foot, 170 from Eastern Illinois. So, they're looking to make shore ups in certain positions and expand their depth in others, hopefully in preparation for making a late push. They are currently sitting at 7-6-0, and on top of the West Division. This is only going to add to their back end strength.
Absolutely. Looking at the Bombers, they also add quarterbacks Jake Dolegala, familiar name, and Brian Don't Call Me Byron Scott to the practice roster.
Yeah, Dolegala is the real big addition here. He's 6'7", 242. He got released by the BC Lions earlier this season. He spent the last 3 seasons in the CFL, 2 with the Roughies, and this year with BC. He started 11 different games and has thrown for 2,968 yards on 264 completions for 12 touchdowns, while also rushing for 112 yards and 1 touchdown. So big man, can move. Glad to see him back. Scott is signing with the Bombers after several stints in the CFL and USFL. Scott was actually a member in 2023 and 2024 of the Toronto Argonauts. He dressed for all 18 games in 2023 and all 9 in 2024 before he was released. So good to see these players finding homes. Anxious to see how Dolegala does, because I love watching that dude play.
Yeah, well, he was pretty effective in Saskatchewan and then found himself out. But it is what it is. This is a story. This goes from we're moving it up from this is 27. You wanted to do this in the business side, but I think this has a big impact on the Canadian Football League. And of course, I'm referring to the sale Bell's shares to Rogers for $4.7 billion. I guess that's Canadian, $4.7 billion.
Yes,
it's still not chump change, even though it's Canadian money. A lot of money, and I'm going to say a lot of cachet that Bell is walking away from.
Yeah, they have been talking a lot recently of streamlining and going from a telco to a true tech co. This could possibly be part of them seeking to pay down debt and maybe do a little bit of restructuring in the meantime. This transition from a traditional telco to a tech co that they're trying to do isn't cheap. Now, so what's happened is Rogers purchased Bell's 37.5% share of MLSE. In the meantime, MLSE chair Larry Tannenbaum, via his holdings company Kilmer Sports, owns the other 25% stake. OMERS, which is a Canadian pension fund, purchased a 5% indirect stake in MLSE in the summer of 2023 through a 20% direct stake in Kilmer Sports for about $400 million. So this sale is suiting them well. One of the additional parts of the sale, now it hasn't been approved yet, but once it does go through, would be Rogers's option to buy out Larry Tannenbaum by 2026.
Right.
So, I mean, this immediately takes the value of MLSE close to $12.5 billion, which is huge. The sale is expected to close in mid 2025, so it's not a done deal yet, pending regulatory and legal approval of the sale. This means that Rogers is going to be adding the Maple Leafs, the Raptors, the Argonauts, TFC, TFC2, the Marlies, Scotiabank Arena to their current portfolio, which already includes the Blue Jays and Skydome or Rogers Center.
Skydome.
Yeah, we'll stick with that.
Confused? What are you, confused?
Well, I mean, the good news is here, by selling their stake to Rogers, this now uncomplicates things for MLSE because they don't have to get approval from two competing media companies in order to get things done now. So it should streamline the decision-making process. The downside of this is now that they're owned more completely by Rogers, prices will probably go up. So this is,
I wouldn't bet on that.
I would.
Okay, let me, because it sounds like I disagree with you with the prices going up. That's not what I meant. What I was putting the brakes on is whether MLSE had Bell or with or without Bell, ticket prices are going to go up. Is all I was trying to point out. I don't think it has much to do with Rogers being on their own now, because the organization and the way sports works, and a pig in a poke, right? And with the fans determine how much the tickets are, because as long as they're clamoring for tickets, right? Mm-hmm. As long as they're vying to buy tickets, supply and demand is really the dictator on how much tickets are. The one thing though that might change, I guess, I haven't had a chance to give much thought to this, but I think the one thing that happens here is that it's no longer going to be which one of them is the bad owner, which one of them is making this terrible. Well, all the credit or none of the credit. Now, the other thing is, Aaron, in my opinion, also the Tannenbaum effect. Tannenbaum got that 25%. They got that 20, he got that 25% as sort of the go-between, the guy that could do the talking and massage and work with the other two parties who were definitely not on the same page. So he literally almost did nothing for that money other than to be the guy that goes between. So now, because one of them is sold, and you pointed out the fact that in the middle of 2025, by then it's quite possible that Larry Tannenbaum's stake in MLSE could be gone and sold, whatever. And the little confusion though with that teacher's pension fund thing happening there, what happens there? That I think that's a bit of a I don't know, a little bit of something in the water there that's floating around that you don't know whether it'll taste good or not. It'll be interesting how that plays out. How do I feel about MLSE becoming Rogers Plus, and by plus I mean Tannenbaum. Rogers hasn't exactly been, um, on one hand, a successful ownership organization. We may be able to sit here and say, well, it wasn't just the Leafs; it was also the Bell. But we have the Jays experience to go by, and when one takes the Jays experience, one can say one thing. I don't know whether when they spent that was it $300 or $400 million to renovate the Sky Dome. Okay, the Rogers Center. When they decided to do that, they were doing something to help make the baseball viewing experience for the fans a little better and a little more interesting. And I have to say, as a person who finally tried the 500 level, I must say it was an interesting way to watch the baseball game. So they're trying to be innovative. What they did at the Rogers Center, some are suggesting that the hockey cash box is going to go through something very similar. And I don't know. So I guess you can answer any of those comments I made. But that's where I sit. It's going to be an interesting time, I guess, is the most important thing I think you can derive from this sale, which isn't final.
Well, most assuredly, I have, and I have heard rumors of Rogers wanting to revamp or give a bit of a glow up to Scotiabank Arena. It is getting to be a little bit longer in the tooth now. I mean, it was opened in 1999, if memory serves. So, there will be the potential there for them to freshen up and brighten up the interior. Um, put on a new coat of paint, that sort of thing. Um, I think a lot of the concern that a lot of the fans have is that they're going to start pushing premium experiences now, which usually come with premium prices.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, there can be no argument that the viewer and the baseball experience has been vastly improved at Skydome. It is
Other
a
than the
lot.
other than the field.
Other than the field,
Other than the field.
yeah.
I don't know how important the fan experience is with a team that plays interesting baseball or plays baseball in September that means something. I don't know how important that is. Yes, I do. But yeah. Sorry, Aaron. For me, that's the bottom line. Like you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
Yeah, and I mean, at 72 and 79, they are currently firmly in the American League East basement.
Yeah.
There's not any question about that. I'm not sure if they're getting best value for their $221,862,600 out of the Blue Jays at this point. Um, that is the seventh largest seasoning open payroll in the majors. You'd think for an organization that was spending that much money on that, um, you know, would have maybe inspired the team to perform better. But I'm not a baseball guy. I really can't tell you a lot about that. I do know that now that Rogers has done this and has decided they're going to try to purchase the majority stake in MLSE, things will probably look a little bit different. I can't say if it's going to be for the better or for the worse. I can say that the Wi-Fi might improve a little bit in those arenas, but even then, that's just one of those things. I'm sorry, Frank. I had to say
it. Oh boy, you're turning my teeth blue. Yeah, I guess that's fair to say. I guess the final thing that I will say about this move is that the thing that looking forward that I don't have any reason to say or even to believe, but there's this shadow cast in the world of a lot of money that isn't North American, or for example, even in England or Britain, whatever, when it comes to their Division One soccer, right? And there are some teams in North America as well that are owned by interests outside our country, right? Our countries, right? I'm just wondering how much of a plum this is that maybe there could be somebody out there that wouldn't mind owning all this, that isn't someone that we would think owning this organization, because there has been a lot of sniffing around. The Blue Jays, the Red Sox company was looking to make some purchases as well, like they have, right? They bought a hockey team in Pittsburgh. Before Pittsburgh, they were thinking of getting the Leafs, right? So there's that as well. This creates an interesting scenario, especially once Tannenbaum sold out. There's some interesting scenarios that could come up that I don't think anybody's thinking about. And I say that because Edward Rogers has been known to be a little bit, him and his sister have not seen eye to eye, for example, with Messiah Jury. I wonder how many other ways they won't see eye to eye, the more Rogers is the overall influential, part of MLSC. I don't know how little Tannenbaum has in the way of actual power now. He just got upped as he is the chairman of the NBA, so he still has that power, and I'm just wondering, what's the next step for MLSC? I'm just wondering whether this is it. They're just going to buy Tannenbaum and then they're going to own the team for whatever.
Well, I think another important thing to consider in all of this as well is that the WNBA team
Right.
is also owned by Kilmer Group. Um, but that's another thing that's going to have to be looked at in all of this, because Toronto MLSC wasn't necessarily interested in a WNBA team
I
until
know, and one of the stories I read referred to MLSC as the dominant business that controls men's sports in Toronto. They control men's sports. In other words, there are no women's sports under that banner, which you and I originally weren't. We didn't understand why MLSC would not bring in, either the hockey or the basketball women's leagues. I still don't understand that, why that is the case. I wonder if that has anything to do with what's in the future, because that's kind of weird. I don't know why you wouldn't have those two, because you're buying low, right? I think.
well, certainly with the Toronto Scepters now playing out of Coca-Cola Coliseum. That is a female sport in an MLSE/Toronto building,
Right.
because the Marlies play out of there as well. So that is something else that we're going to have to look at. Now, for everybody who wants to watch on TV, don't lose too much heart. As it currently stands, Bell, who own TSN, have managed to secure sports rights for the next 20 years under the agreement for 50% of the Raptors games and 50% of the Maple Leafs games.
Regional games.
So
Regional
regional, yeah.
games in
So
hockey,
that's
and all the games in all the games in the NBA.
yeah. So that's not going away. So you don't have to worry about that there. But yeah, TSN is also going to continue to broadcast Argonauts and TFC games through independent agreements they have with the CFL and MLS. So that is important to note as well. Bell is still the official telecom sponsor of the Raptors and will continue sponsorships of the Argonauts and Toronto FC as well. Rogers has said that the purchase is not going to affect its debt leverage, and financing will include private investors.
Yeah, private investors. Who are these people?
I
Well,
make
all
uh,
I can say, Aaron, is, let's see, what can I say? I'm looking at I'm in my head are rolling around all the teams and the way they've been playing, and how successful they've been. The addition of Keith Pelly, um, a guy that understands international sports. Not he comes from the Argos. He's been involved with them before. It's going to be an interesting time, And for those of us that love sports, sports in Toronto, um, there's a new there's a stronger kid in town. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be interesting. It's
Oh,
gonna be
for
very,
sure.
very, very interesting. And by the way, I'm not necessarily right that the prices won't move up a little faster under an MLSE that's dominated by Rogers. My only point back there is I wanna make sure nobody's confused. Prices go up no matter what, and they go up no matter how bad a team plays either. I mean, we've seen that for years and years and years and years and
With
years.
one exception, and that was TFC.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
that's not likely to happen again.
I don't think so either. Let's talk about the WNBA and the Portland expansion franchise will actually begin to play in the league in 2026. A great opportunity here for another city to enjoy a vastly improving women's basketball league.
Yeah, so Portland, Golden State, and Toronto will all be joining the league over the course of the next 2 years. Um, as the WNBA builds on a season of unprecedented growth, this is the actually 15th franchise in the league. It'll be owned and operated by Raj Sports after the group paid $125 million for the team. This is actually the second time that Portland has had a WNBA franchise. The Portland Fire played 3 seasons from 2000 to 2002 before folding. Um, so they're going to be sharing a home at Moda Center with the NBA's Trailblazers. So Portland's going to be joining Golden State and Toronto, as I already mentioned, as new expansion teams. The Golden State Valkyries will begin playing next season, and the as yet unnamed Toronto WNBA team will be starting alongside Portland in 2026. Future expansion plans also include adding more teams by 2028, but it's unlikely that any potential new franchises would begin playing before the 2027 season. Um, so this is really interesting news. Glad to see there's a little more there's a little more competition out there for that sort of thing. I'm wondering if they're going to go with the WNBA Portland name, or if they're going to be linked with the other name for Portland, which is the Rose City. So we'll see how that works.
Portland Rose.
Or the Rose City Thorns, the Rose City Rim Rockers.
Portland Rose. I like that. It may be
Good work.
a little too feminine.
We'll see. We'll see. But I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, the Portland Thorns. Yeah, yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I've watched a couple of games. The more I watch, and because I don't watch steadily, the improvement in the games is very apparent for someone like myself. It's like not seeing a kid after it's born for a year or then 2 years, then another year. You notice the growth, and I've noticed the growth and the excitement. You can hear it, in the stands, and you can see the way that the ladies are playing. They're really good basketball players.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Let's go to the National Hockey League and the Canucks. They traded an old veteran of theirs, a guy that was really a stalwart for the team going back to their Stanley Cup days. And Edler now is going to sign a one-day contract to retire as a Vancouver Canuck.
So for all of the fans out there, the signing is going to be part of a celebration of Edler's career, which is to be held on October 11th when the Canucks host the Philadelphia Flyers. They originally signed Edler from Östersund, Sweden in the third round of the 2004 NHL draft. He played in 925 career games for the Canucks between the 2006 and 7 and 2021-2020 seasons, ranking fourth in franchise history and first amongst defensemen. He leads all Vancouver defensemen with 99 goals, 310 assists, and 177 power play points with the team. He was an integral part of the Canucks' run to the 2011 Stanley Cup final, putting up 11 points across 25 games. His last 2 seasons, he played for Los Angeles in 2021-22 and 2022-23. He did not play in the NHL last season.
Yeah, great player. Nice move. It's always nice when a player and a team agree to do something like this, and it's usually not that difficult to agree to do it. It's welcome back. You're home. And when you have a player like him who was there for such a prolonged period, the fans need something like this. If you're a fan of any sport, of any team, there is a love and affection that develops over the years for players by fans. And you know what? The We don't think about it enough, I don't think. That same love is felt by the players. And sometimes we forget, even though they get paid, even though they're professionals, they're also people. So congratulations to him and the Canucks for doing this, and all the best in whatever endeavors he takes on in the future. And I think a guy that's treated that is feted this way, Aaron, would not surprise me if you find him somewhere on the management team.
Oh, at this rate, I don't think there's any doubt that he will be involved with the team in some regard.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Dakota Joshua, another Vancouver Canuck, who has now revealed that he has had a cancer diagnosis. F cancer is all I can say.
Yeah, he recently revealed that he had been diagnosed with testicular cancer. He has received and gone through a procedure for it, and he is currently encouraging people to get checked regularly. He's only 28 years old. He's actually coming off his best season in the NHL, scoring 18 goals and 14 assists in 63 games with Vancouver. They gave him a new 4-year contract worth $13 million just days before he was set to test the free agent market. He was originally selected by the Maple Leafs in the fifth round, 128th overall back in 2014, but chose not to sign with the Leafs because he didn't see a path to the NHL with the club, given Toronto's depths and forward prospects at that time. He was also one of those forwards that Toronto was definitely taking a look at, and he, in return, had said that he would be interested in signing with the Maple Leafs during NHL free agency, but that contract, obviously 4 years and 13 mil, came through. Congratulations to him on that. Glad to see that he's got the treatment that he needs, and we here would like to wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, and testing is very important when it comes to one's health. We forget sometimes how important finding something like cancer as early as possible is really important. Important enough for you to do testing. We forget sometimes how beneficial testing is. Wish him all the best for sure. 3 surprise positive for the Oilers out of the prospect tournament, Aaron. What are they?
Well, they fell 2-0 to Vancouver, 3-1 to Calgary, and 2-0 to Vancouver in the recent Young Stars Classic tournament in Picticton. But out of that came a few good things. One of those was goaltending. All 3 goalies got a chance to start. By that, we're talking about Nathaniel Day and Brett Brochu and Connor Unger. The bright spots for them would have been Nathaniel Day and Brett Brochu, who both saved 28 of the 30 shots that the Canucks prospects fired at them. Day, unfortunately, has struggled at times in the OHL, putting up a save percentage of under .875 in back-to-back seasons. But the 22-year-old Brochu is going to have to fight for starts in Bakersfield behind Colin Delia and Oliver Rodrigue, not to mention his Young Stars teammate Unger, but he's got good numbers. There was evidence of a lot of physicality. It was no different for the Oilers. Nate Corbett dropped the gloves in all 3 of his games, fighting Joe Arnson, Lucas Siona, and Mark Lewinsky. And the other bright light would actually be a gentleman by the name of Maximus Vanner. With Bo Akey sidelined due to injury, their 7th-round pick, Max Vanner, became the Oilers' #1 defenseman. Vanner spent all of last year in Bakersfield, making him the only blue liner with player experience on the rookie camp roster. But he played well on both sides of the puck. So there's a little bit of hope at goalie. There's a little bit of hope at defense. And there's additional proof that the Oilers are willing to crash and bang to hang with anybody. So that's a good start.
Not every veteran hockey player wants to be part of a rebuild. In other words, when a lot of veterans start disappearing, the fact that they want to stay with an organization, sometimes the answer to that is no, they don't want to. But in this case, the Calgary Flames are lucky to have a guy like Uyghur who's more than willing to stick around, even though all the veterans, or a lot of the veterans, have left the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, he was a seventh round pick by Florida in the 2013 draft. Um, it's one of those things where if you stick it out for long enough, that good things are eventually going to happen. Um, you know, in 2021, 2022, following a second round playoff exit, he got traded to the Flames along with Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, and less than 2 years after that, the Panthers were hoisting the Stanley Cup. Where he used to be, as just one of those darn I just missed it sort of things. But at the same time, he says, you know what? I'm happy for the city and for the team. There's no bad taste in my mouth over this. His sole focus is getting the Flames back to the same spot. Obviously, the landscape has changed a little bit since we are committed to Calgary on an 8-year, $50 million U.S. contract in October 2022. Um, he's watched people like Markstrom, Tanev, Hanifin, Zadorov, Lindholm, and Mangiapane leave town. But despite all of that, he says that he remains committed to the Calgary project, steered by General Manager Craig Conroy. So
Yeah.
uh, hopefully the seasons go well for him. He's a good, solid, hard player. He deserves it.
It's hard to be a winner in Canada, man, and it's tough on the Canadian hockey fans. It's a tough road. I mean, we hear all the little reasons why players don't want to play in Canada, and Uyghur hasn't obviously been affected by any of them. Like for example, the pressure of playing in a Canadian market. You know, that being, I think, the primary thing, and also the fact that our tax system here isn't conducive to a player making as much money as he can make elsewhere. So these are all handicaps against that's why for me I don't believe that cap is an equalizing factor. It cements advantages for certain teams and cements disadvantages for certain teams because the cap does not even things out. It actually makes a difference for players because now with the cap, that means some teams are allowed to pay more to some players than others, and that I don't know how long the rest of the National Hockey League teams, of which Aaron, ironically and factually, the most powerful teams in the National Hockey League and the ones that have the wherewithal to pay good money to players can't and have not had good season. You flip the coin. What do we talk about championships in hockey? What do we talk about the National Hockey League Stanley Cup champions? Oh, they're teams from smaller markets. They're teams from markets that are very not so hockey based. What does that mean on the flip side? The teams that are very hockey based aren't winning. The teams with large financial backing, like the Rangers, this isn't about the Maple Leafs, folks. I know we do the Maple Leafs, but unfortunately, the whole world doesn't revolve around Toronto. There's actually other big cities that just aren't competitive because it takes more money to convince players to go there. And usually because they're in some big cities, they're in states where the taxes are a lot higher. So I don't know. I just don't think I don't like the way the National Hockey League works. It isn't an equal opportunity. It isn't fair to all the fans equally.
No, most definitely isn't. And um, that's the one of the things that you mentioned is the disparity when it comes to that sort of thing. The the teams that typically win the cup are described as scrappy, hungry, underdogs, sort of thing. And then there are the legacy teams who could win the cup, but for some reason don't, and seem to prefer selling their fans on hope as opposed to anything else. Like you look at a lot of the teams that have won, they're upstart teams. There's a guy that took a huge pay cut to stay in Colorado. There's a franchise that's less than a decade old. There's all sorts of teams that have won that aren't technically supposed to. Heck, I mean, even the Bulls are supposed to be sold for $2.5 billion. So it's these unlikely or young, scrappy underdog teams that seem to be the ones that win more often. And I'm not sure if it's because there's more drive to do it or what, but
Oh, there's
the
been the talk that you're doing it in anonymity. Success is easier within a world of anonymity.
Yeah, I guess the less people, the fewer people, the fewer eyes, while not necessarily good for the sport, does make it a little bit easier for the athletes to play and compete.
And as long as the big city teams are carrying the bundle of the cost, it's not such a bad deal. So
Yeah.
in other words, it's like actually it's like the political system, right? When you go to help somebody who you feel um, hasn't been given the right opportunity, and you build a system to help them to have advantages that you're saying they need to have because they've been disadvantaged, the pendulum swings the whole other way, and all of a sudden they have the advantage and the others around that we thought had advantages actually don't. So it to me it's not a free market system, and it's if if the league continues to do this, eventually what's going to happen is the big money teams are going to say or do something, because they'll have no choice, because all of their fans in various cities around the National Hockey League. I mean, I'll use one example. The team we love so much and we talk about so positively every show when we do Leaf Talk, the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know. I like this is an organization, as much as we want to laugh at the Leafs and not winning a cup in, I don't know, a lifetime for most people. Um, the Montreal Canadiens, more than any other organization in hockey since '93, have done an about face. They are nothing like the organization and the team. They won. They made it to the Stanley Cup final. Whoopee. But once if that's an anomaly in my mind, because every other year has been totally different than that.
Yeah, and the other thing about Montreal too is the fans won't stand for it. If the team starts to play like crap, then the fans don't show up.
Well, they got a women's hockey team now there.
I'd show up for that.
Another option, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
Not only that, there's the Laval Rocket, there's the Trois-Rivières Lions, there's other options
Montreal
for them.
Alouettes.
Yep.
Yeah, there's options for them to go and feel like the team they're supporting has a chance to win. And no one could blame a Montreal fan. Although the good news about Montreal fans is they don't remember since 1993. They're still thinking about the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even 80s. So they can take their history is long and honorable, right? And it'll take a long time. Obviously, what it's been, let's see, 2000, 30 years since they won the cup.
Yeah. They're they've gone they've gone a significant period of time. I
What
you
would
know
really put pressure on them, a lot of pressure, is if the Leafs won the cup. Because if the Leafs won the cup, then it would change. The Montreal situation, they would abandon that team in a flourish. I really believe that the pressure on Montreal would become, it would be like the coin just flipping, right? Go, boom, the switch would go. That's it. We're not taking this anymore. When that team wins, this is no good. While we're talking, let's go to former Ottawa senator now, has written a letter, uh, uh, basically telling the Ottawa fans that he's retiring. Tell us about that player.
so the player in question at the tender age of 34 is Chris Weidman. He unfortunately was unable to play in the 2023-2024 season. He played his last two seasons in with the Habs, but he made his name with the Ottawa Senators originally, spending almost a decade affiliated with the team. The Sens drafted him in 2009, 100th overall. Um, Weidman spent 3.5 seasons with the NHL club, including 15 of their 19 games in that fantastic playoff run back in 2017. Um, he was a solid bottom pairing guy, kind of like an earlier version of Eric Brandstrom. He was a good teammate, a good player for the Senators. Um, he used to post that he would show up at random rinks, local outdoor rinks, if any local kids wanted to come out and play shinny. In the letter that he wrote, he covers off the sacrifices that his family has made for him, his love of the game, his love of the cities that he played in. Um, and how rewarding all of it could be. Um, he wanted to give a special shout out to Scott Mellenby and his agent Alain Roy for taking an interest in him. Um, it he is, despite how he left Ottawa, he is going to be missed. So I wish him all the best. Back injuries are a hard thing to play through, man. I'm glad he made it as far as he did.
Yeah, let's move on to Tyler Ennis writing another message about retirement.
Yeah, after 13 seasons in the NHL, 2 years overseas, and playing on the Canadian team on the national stage, Tyler Ennis has decided he's going to officially hang it up. Um, he posted it on Instagram. He's played for the Wild, the Senators, the Sabres, the Oilers, and the Maple Leafs. So he's been well traveled. Um, I believe he might have been one of those guys that helped get Mike Babcock fired. He did manage to earn every inch that he played for on the ice. So congratulations to him for that. He finished his run with 144 goals and 346 points, and 4 goals and 12 points in 24 playoff games. He had 2 shots at the Stanley Cup in 2010 and 2011, and got 1 gold medal for the World Championships with Team Canada. So, congratulations to him on wrapping things up. Wish him all the best. Again, wish him all the best as well.
He was a Marley, wasn't he?
I guess he was.
I'm just wondering why he made the cut when it comes to news. Just saying. Maple Leafs bring former Frozen 4 MOP John Giles to training camp.
So they were looking for a little more. They were looking for a little more grunt in goal, basically. He didn't play hockey in 2023, 2024. He did spend most of the 2022, 2023 season in the AHL, but he did make 3 appearances with the Blue Jackets, where he had a 1-0-0 record with an 8.64 save percentage. Um, he was a promising goaltending prospect. He attended Providence from 2012 to 2015 and backstopped them to a national title in 2015. He was the most outstanding player from the 2015 Frozen Four and was named to the All Hockey East first team and the Hockey East All Rookie team. Um, he was selected by the Flames in the third round of the 2012 entry draft, but played in just 12 games with the Flames, mostly spending his tenure in the organization with the Stockton Heat. Um, he kind of had a little trouble finding his footing at the professional level, and it also didn't help that, like some other Leafs goalies, he had to take time away from the game early in his professional career to deal with a nagging hip issue. Now, there are a lot of goalies with the Leafs currently. We're talking Joseph Woll, Anthony Stolars, Matt Murray, Dennis Hillby, Artur Akhtyamov, and Slava Peska, all in the fold there. He is certainly one of the bigger goalies at 6'6". He'll give Hildeby a run for his money in goal too. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out for him. I'm hoping he gets another opportunity.
They have 3 teams they can put goaltenders in, and then they have an NHL team that we know by virtue of the lack of experience, it won't be a surprise to the Maple Leafs that they might go through 3, 4, maybe even 5 goaltenders this season just because of that. It'll be difficult for them to provide or to get solid goaltending at this point. Unsure. That doesn't mean they won't. They're that unsure. And when it comes to goaltenders, after the year that they had, if you remember the last 2 years, they've gotten to the point where they almost used a Zamboni driver for goal.
Yeah, they have not had a lot of success when it comes
No.
to keeping goalies healthy, and I'm not 100% sure why, but hopefully this will work out for them.
Absolutely. Maple Leafs missing mystery solved.
So if you've been traveling around Toronto in the past week or so, and even looking at their social media, you would have noticed that on some buildings, in particular Scotiabank Arena, lost its O's. The digital signboard would display a whole bunch of signs without O's. The O went missing on the front of some Go trains because they're a sponsor. This was all in the lead up to the big reveal that Oreos is now the sponsor of the Toronto Maple Leafs for their helmets. They've gotten away from TikTok, and they got away from Pizza. They didn't have a sponsor when they went to Sweden, so they had the Scotiabank logo on their helmet. But as it turns out, yes, Mondelez Canada has agreed to partner with the Leafs to put Oreos on their helmets, which I think is awesome because their jersey sponsor is milk, and we all know how well those two go together.
Milk and
So
cookies.
milk and cookies, who knew? So their first preseason game, I'll have a chance to see their helmets. I'm going to be at the Toronto Maple Leafs Ottawa Senators game on Sunday, September 22nd.
So will one side of their helmet have the chocolate and the other side the center?
I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I'm actually very interested to see what they do with that. So.
It'll be interesting because who doesn't do this to their Oreo cookie?
Right?
Who doesn't do that? Let's talk about the goaltending again in a little more depth, and let's specifically talk about the Maple Leaf goaltending situation and who's up to maybe be the number one and get the majority of the starts.
Well, Anthony Stolarz signed a 2-year, $5 million contract after coming off a huge season with the Florida Panthers, where he not only led the NHL in regular season save percentages at .925, but won himself a Stanley Cup in the process. He understands and he's aware that this is a fresh start for him. It's also a completely merciless hockey market. The good news is he's already familiar with Steve Lorentz, who's here on a PTO, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Not to mention Simone Benoit and Yenny Hakanpää, who he had a chance to play with in the AHL with the San Diego Gulls, and Max Domi and Mitch Marner were his teammates when he played with the OHL's London Knights. So there is a lot of familiarity here for him. And he says he's very interested in going up with Joseph Woll and Matt Murray, mainly because he and Joseph Woll have the same agent. So whither one goeth, so goeth the other. So hopefully he'll be able to put it together.
Okay, our last story, Oliver Ekman-Larsson is wearing a different number. Aaron, what's the reason?
Well, he originally wore the 91. That's obviously John Tavares' number, so we can't take that. But in order to honor his brother Kevin, he has decided that he was going to wear the number 95 because that's when his brother was born. Kevin spent 2 seasons with the Tucson Roadrunners from 2017 to 19, but has since returned to Sweden where he's currently playing.
Absolutely, Aaron. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
Always glad to be here, Frank.
Enjoy Hump Day and the rest of the week.
Will do.
Thank you, Aaron. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.